say, one of the members of the TeX Live team. I originally started from the Debian side. Actually, originally from the TeX Live side, I was just doing bindings for strange architecture for TeX Alpha, Linux on TeX Alpha. And later on, I packaged in 2005 for TeX Live for Debian. And then I got more and more involved into TeX Live itself upstream, and now since 2007 I've rewritten the whole infrastructure. So yeah, the talk is about distributing TeX Live because we get on the mailing list often questions, we often see problems, things that distributions just mess it up, how to package TeX Live. I mean, it's written here distributing TeX, but since we are speaking about Unix or whatever, why does this look so strange? Anyway. It's mostly TeX Live. Thomas Esser stopped working on teTeX. Probably most of you have heard of teTeX in several years ago. Anyway, and so now most distributions now, practically all use TeX Live as the base. So what is TeX Live? TeX Live is a distribution of TeX with a lot of things. It aims as in okay, well, that's the overview. You don't need to see this. So what is TeX? I will not speak about TeX. I don't give an introduction to TeX. I hope everyone knows how to program TeX, especially these nice things here with a lot of expand after. But this is not today's talk. Today is more about TeX Live and how to package it. So it started in '93, that is quite some time ago, when the TouchTeX user group started to distribute. That was long before it was called TeX Live. And from '95, they shipped CDs at that time based on teTeX, Thomas Esser TeX. And '96 saw the first version called TeX Live. At that time, where came this live from? At that time, it was actually a live system. So plugged in the CD into the drive and had a running TeX system on it. That is unfortunately not possible anymore because we ran out of space. The next few steps in 2005, in 2000 is when all the non-free software was removed. I just mentioned the big steps. In 2002, we added macOS support. 2005, it's not so important. From 2006 to 2009, Carl Berry took over from Robin and saw the addition of teTeX. So now very common, especially for multilingual typesetting. teTeX stopped being developed, and it took about 10 years that it got phased out of the development. Since 2007, we have the TeX Live Manager introduction. And in the last years, that coincides with my move to Japan. I'm now living in Japan. The Japanese TeX support was introduced with teTeX, and uptake. So these are different extensions for the very complicated Japanese typesetting. And last year, that was just another pet project of mine, is to rewrite update mapping some way. Okay, what are the features of TeX Live? Well, it aims to be complete. So everything that is free, according to FSF guidelines, should be included. Actually, we want to have everything in on CPAN, so we pull everything from CPAN. CPAN is the comprehensive TeX archive network. Most people have probably known the CPAN, the Perl, so that's very similar. We have currently what is 2,474 packages, so that means one package consists often up to hundreds of files. That means one package from CPAN, font set, macro package, or whatever. It is multi-platform and multi-operating system. We are currently supporting 10 different architectures. So we have 10 architectures, 8 operating systems, and well, the combinations amount to 18 combinations because you cannot combine everything with everything. Where we ship actual binaries with TeX Live. So we have our own distribution channels, and we ship the binaries for these architectures. It is uniform across platforms, so teTeX was only Unix. TeX Live is now shipped from Windows, Mac OS, and all Linux, as Unix distributions. We have our own package manager, TeX Live Manager, which is responsible for a huge amount of things. And well, since I've rewritten the infrastructure in 2007 to 9, we have now daily updates. So when an author submits a new version to the CPAN system, we get notified, and then by a semi-automatic process, This stuff is included in our subversion repository, and from the subversion repository once by day, there is a rebuild stage and pushed out to the CETA network. So that was actually a big error, because now everybody complains, hey, since 3 days we don't have any updates. And, well, we are trying to be Debian-free or FSF-free, EFSG-free with a few exceptions. We don't care for some. I'm a Debian developer, but at the moment I take off the Debian developer and put in the text. I've had some crazy freaking regulations not to include nice fonts and layouts. Typical example is, for example, the font installation guide, which is from Lehman, has a very nice laid out font, very beautiful presentation, which we cannot ship because the fonts are commercial. We ship the source code of the document, but we cannot ship the font, so we cannot ship the nice PDF. And yeah, so, but in the Debian, on the TeX side, we do this. So these are the only differences to the Debian rules. So what are these TeX Live, our distribution channels? We have one DVD per year. It's normally in June around, and this stays for about 1 year, and you can go back quite some time. But most people nowadays use it very conveniently. We call it TeX Live Network Distribution. You just download a very small installer, which is written in Perl, and for Windows we have to ship a Perl installer and suck up all the installation. This changes daily, practically, on the CETA network. So, and this is where also the TeX Live Manager pulls stuff in. Okay, for these people, so that was a big background on what TeX Live is. So now what, I mean, I assume, well, I don't assume much of that you know about TeX, but there are a few things you have to know. And the one thing is that is something which creates always problems in the distributions, is that we have configuration files that are stacked and non-stacked. So what are the non-stacked? This is quite easy. This is like most configuration files we have in a distribution system. We have a hierarchy of trees, and the uppermost in the hierarchy file is picked up as configuration file. Think about whatever a configuration for a local user program often ships a general configuration in etc, and you can have in your home directory the same configuration file but with attachments, and then your personal copy has a higher priority. So, but then the old one is normally not. Well, it depends. So that if it's not stacked, then only yours is ready. In contrast to this, these are stacked. So we have every copy of the file. We are here considering not different names, but always the same file name. All files of the same are all evaluated. So these are two different levels. We will see examples in a minute. So and these are for packages, for read distributors. They have, so I mean, I know I'm in the same position. I'm also packaging, but also writing. There are practically 4 files, more or less, well, this is a group of files, that have to be taken care of. That are the central configuration files for TeX. The first one most people have heard about is the texmf.conf. That's the general configuration file. Normally, not many things have to be changed. This is since 2012 stacked, so the TeX programs read all the texmf config file it finds and evaluates them in the proper way. And update make.config, this is for embedding fonts. So we know there are thousands of fonts in the TeX system, and how to the different engines, DVI-PS, DVI-PDFM, XDVI, how they use fonts and which fonts are used. This is governed by this one. This is also since 2012 stacked, so all the update map files are ready. In contrast to the non-stacked ones, these are format utilities. So this is a definition of formats, which are memory dumps. This is more probably from, well, we come to teTeX later, and language definition files. In fact, they provide which hyphenations are available in a TeX system. So let's go through these 4 files or file groups one by one. So texmf config, that has a lot of settings, but for distributions, I want you only to remember the only thing you should change in most cases is the path, because that might change where you put the files. So these are the trees that are predefined in the TeX config file. And here, R is the root, what in the TeX system would be TeX 2012 at the moment. So and they are also in increasing order. So this is the, well, actually, this one here is the uppermost, and this is the lowest. So a file that is found here overrides a file that is found here. TeX this is where 95% of the files are, that are about 20,000 or 50,000 files. They are here. TeX local, straightforward, this is what the system-wide uses. TeX main, that might get dropped with 2013, because we had an idea to have the shareable, non-shareable components, but it turned out nobody actually used it, and you can use it even without this. And then are the system, so variable data, generated data, and configuration files. The user tree in home directory and the user. So these are the files, the trees that are predefined, and distributors often change them. For example, in Debian, this one is used as a share TeX live TeXMF this is user local share TeXMF, this is user share TeX live TeXMF, and so on. So we change this. And the only thing is, yeah, a typical example is, for example, TeXMF sysconfig. What was sysconfig? It's the system-wide configuration for this whole installation. So it makes sense to have, for example, etc TeXMF. And this is then a fully standard TeX directory standard compliant tree. So what is the normal things we recommend to do for the redistributors is adjustment of these tree locations. Maybe add some trees that make sense. This is something we do in Debian. And anything else should not be necessary. I mean, there are memory adjustments, but we have set up the values in a way that even if you install everything, you shouldn't bite any memory limit. So if you actually hit this, then you probably know what you have to do, or you can ask us. So as I said, this is a stacked one. So since all of them are red, you don't need to copy all of it. Just like here, create a new file TeXMF config and put in only the changed values, nothing else. It's very easy if you check the Debian system, also currently Wheezy with TeX Live 2012. So we have a very simple configuration file that consists of 4 lines or something, or 3 lines, just a few pass adjustments. Nothing else should be done. Okay, that was the easy case. So what is the other thing? Update map, configuration map. So what is update map? Update map is a very strange piece. Actually, it's a meta processor for directives. So what it is, it reads the config files. In the config files, there are references to map files. These map files contain font definitions, and update map merges them all together and generates proper configuration files for DVI, BDFM, BDFTech, DVI-PS, and some other programs, because the formats slightly differ here. And there are also some options here, so which font do you want, the Adobe or the UAV fonts? Then that is something important. Every change in the availability of fonts, what it means the user installs a new font package, the user removes the font package, needs adaptation of these files and needs a rerun. This is one of the core errors for most distributors. They just don't do this, and then users are surprised that they manage, a lot of error messages. Since it is stacked, since 2012, it's stacked now, local system adaptations can be easily handled by just putting them in TeXMF local or in some other tree. So they are local. In Debian, for example, we have the TeX Live ships everything under user share TeX Live, and other font packages in user share TeXMF, and each one generates its own update config file. So that is something packagers, distribution should remember. If you have a change in your availability of fonts, you have to rerun update maps, otherwise, and you have to regenerate the file or change it. Otherwise, the user will see strange things happening. So what is this new operation mode I just mentioned, just that you see what's going on? So all update make config files are read in these trees. And so this is the highest priority, this is the lowest priority, highest priority. So you forget the user mode for now, just the system mode. For distributors, the user mode is not interesting. And then, so that means that, well, we have, for example, we ship in TeX Live, then we have this file and this file. This file contains all the font definitions that are there in TeX Live. This one in TeXMF main contains only the general settings, and the rest is up to the user. For example, on my system, I have several fonts I purchased or I install from different sources. I put them in TeXMF local and just put the respective maps file in this. That's all. And then run update maps, nothing else. People who have seen TeX Live before on Debian remember this comment update map. That is gone. No need anymore, because update map now reads all files. Okay, next configuration file, also very prone to get forgotten by redistributors, is the format utilities. Which format? So that is from a time, yeah, when I look here, then probably everyone has used computers at this time. When Knut wrote this back in the 80s, there was speed and memory was a big issue. So he devised in his TeX program on Metafont a mode init mode, which was a bit more evolved but had more features, but it took more time. That loaded all the initial definitions and then dumped out a memory dump, so to say, and then later runs just loaded this memory on. And this is, yeah, it's 2030 now, but this is still what's happening in the TeX world. Yeah, you don't have to wonder. I mean, new formats like LuaTeX got rid of this, but still we have the fact that these formats, these dumps have to be recreated. So, input file for this, yeah, so this formatutil.conf specifies so how to generate these dumps. This is the content of the formatutil.conf. And it's not stacked, so there's only one. You cannot override local stuff, but this is also something which normally don't happen. Font additions are very common in this system. Many people have their systems have. Think about in a university department or company, you have your private font, your identity, so some company font, a university font, which you have to use. So this is the case. While new formats are relatively rare, I have to say. Again, like with update maps, every change with the availability of formats needs a regeneration or adaptation of this file and a rerun of format utilities. So this is something which also happens depending on your package manager from the distribution side. You install, you remove. This is something that has to be taken in account. Hyphenation patterns, that's actually grew since, I don't know, 3 years now. We have this dat.lua, that's for LuaTeX, the definitions. Again, during format generation, these formats read in hyphenation patterns. And this is in a special format, and these hyphenation subpatterns are dumped together with the memory format. So that's all. Yeah, back in the 80s, could everything be read nowadays more easily, but well, that's transition in progress. So if changes to hyphenation, and this language start, launch, def, and that Lua, they define for different engines. For the late, so this is for the LaTeX based, this is for the eTeX based, and this is for LuaTeX based. And again, if something changes, please remember something changes in the hyphenation, you have to rebuild the formats. Otherwise, it doesn't match. I mean, that is something what I remember. Last year we got the question, what's going on? We installed a new hyphenation, but when I run LaTeX, it tells me not available. Well, the format was not regenerated. That's the simple point. Exception is that this one is a runtime file, so you don't have to do anything but to fix it. LuaTeX loads it on demand. So other things with respect to TeX Live is if you want to packages, you have to know a bit about the structure. So we have a hierarchy of packages. On the top are schemes. We have currently 9 schemes. They collect together, well, they have overlapping contents. So they are not exclusive. So typically a scheme small, context, scheme normal, scheme everything. So these are the top levels. That is what in our installation process the user gets asked on the front side, what do you want to install? Do you want to have everything? Or we have a scheme teTeX which tries to resemble teTeX at the time. In the middle there are collections. There are 84 at the moment, I think yesterday. They are non-overlapping. That means they are a partition of the contents. This is important. Why? Package managers are not, distribution packages, not happy when one file is in two packages. I mean, there are conflicts, you know this. Probably so these collections will keep them non-overlapping, so a partition of the contents. So they collect related material. So we have LaTeX, formats extra, so some extra strange formats for Arabic language support, all kinds. And on the lowest level we have TeX-Live packages. We have now 2,490 something. This is the smallest unit. They relate directly to what an author, a package writer uploads to CPAN in 99.9%. Typical examples, Beamer, CommaScript, PGF, things you might, what you use, for example, when you use LaTeX, use package PGF or something. So these are this is the hierarchy of packages. And other things that are necessary for packaging. At the end, you will have to take contact with this beast here. Before 2007, that was not existing. There were thousands of single files, which might also be nice, but they were in XML, and who wants to parse XML? Nobody. So when I rewrote this, I changed the format into something much more adjustable to, well, command line parsing, Unix tools. It's just package description files of Debian. If you know what the packages file in Debian are, they are stanzas separated by MTR, also by a new line, and that's it. So we have this TeX-Live database describes the whole state of one installation, meaning also the whole state of the TeX-Live network, even when it's compressed. It's a simple text file, so plain lines. We have revision numbers for single packages. This is always generated from static content, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of Perl models for those. I mean, I come back to this later on. So how does it look like? Very easy. But if you have seen one of the packages file in Debian, you know, well, there's name upload, that's one of the package name, or name MR, and then are the rest, and in between is an empty line. So it's a sequence of key value pairs, separated by an empty line or more, and you have one group per package, so the TeX-Live package, and we have some meta packages. So that is, for example, an example I copied from 2 days ago, the Droid fonts. So here's a typical example. So you have the name, what kind of categories, revision. This is our internal revision number from the subversion system, the highest change revision of all the containing files. This is what it is based on. Our TeX-Live Manager basis updates purely on the revision number, not on version numbers, because version numbers in the TeX-Live are horrible. They are going up, down, wobbling around, so they are not definitely always increasing, while with some revision numbers we are. Then we have a short and a long description. I deleted the rest of the long description. They are taken from the TeX catalog. We have execute. We will discuss this later on. This can be forgotten. This might be interesting. Doc files, so that are documentation files. Then here comes identify one space, the list of documentation files. They can have some tags here. That would be nice. Then we have source files, which are used to generate and run files. These are the ones that have to be actually installed because they are used for running. And there is additional catalog data, like where it is found on the CTAN network, when it was last updated on the catalog, what is the license according to the catalog, and what is the version according to the catalog. So this is one of these object files. So you might ask where we mentioned this I mentioned this execute, and I mentioned the 4 configuration files. The first is the TeX-Map config, but then the fonts, the hyphenations, and the formats. So where is this information coming in? This information is coming exactly from this execute map. Think about it like a post-install action trigger. You have to do something. So here are the execute statements. The one is add map, add mixed map, and add kanji map. That's simple. In this update make config file, there can be either a statement map, blah blah, mixed map, blah blah, or kanji map. So the typical line is this one. It means you should add a line map to your update map.config file. And when you remove this package, you should remove this map line again, because it's not here. And mixed map and kanji map are different. For kanji map, other is Japanese. So for the formats, we have add format. Don't ask me why I have sometimes a lower and sometimes an upper. It's just historically, I think. That is a bit more complicated. This is not the line exactly as it should end up. So it gives the name of the format, which engine. So the PDF LaTeX format is compiled with the PDF LaTeX engines. This gives the language start. This is where the hyphenation patterns are. And then some options, what should be run. From this line, we have a Perl code, but you can easily pass it yourself. One line for format.utility.conf has to be generated. And for hyphen, we have, that's getting more complicated. We have the name, Basque, for example. Then these are configuration options, how many, where you can put the hyphen. You cannot split the word in one character on the left side and all the rest. Some rules, linguistic rules that are not allowed, so they are put here. And then loader files and hyphenation patterns file and some exceptions if there are. From this, again, you can generate, there is Perl code available in a nice form, but you can easily do it yourself by reading the specification. Generate the language.dev.lua files. So these execute statements have to be taken into account. So if you package something, take like for a distribution, and you split into smaller units, you have to think about, well, if the user installs something that relates to one of these execute statements, then the package manager has to do something. So, packaging paradigm. How do we package this piece? We are now at 3.6 gigabytes that is live. That makes it, first of all, I didn't count the number of files, and that makes it very, completely impossible to do anything by hand. I mean, checking everything by hand, it takes years. So there are different ways to package, to split or not split. So the first one, I would say all or nothing. There is one distribution package which contains everything. You have one package, it's called teTeX Live, or teTeX or whatever. First method. Has some advantages and some disks. Collection splitting, you split at the collection level. Single packages, so you split one distribution package, like whatever, merges, maps to one teTeX Live package, and then there's mixed mode. Let's go through them. So all or nothing. So the advantage of the all or nothing is, it's easy. You don't have to care. The good thing is you don't have to care for the configuration files. You just install what we are shipping, because if you remove, then you remove everything. Right. So that's the nice thing, but I wouldn't recommend it. We get even in other distributions already complaints, oh, it's 200 megabytes, it's too big. So if whenever a user wants to install teTeX, has to install 3.6 gigabyte, so I'm not sure if most people will be happy. So I don't know any distribution he's using this at the moment.
So this user is still using the 1 gigabyte file, at least half of the
Yeah, right, that's different how to build it. The Debian also uses 4 huge tarballs. But what you ship in Debian at the end, you build from these 4 huge tarballs, we build 90 or 100 binary packages. And this is what the user installs and sees, because the user doesn't see the build process. This is different if you are a port system, or in BSD, where you have to download everything, or I don't know, some other distributions, I don't know. So that might be a real problem, yeah? So collection splitting, the advantage is that it is somehow nice to the package manager of the distribution, because as I say, collections are a partition of the content, so there's no overlap. So if you have a file which is contained in one collection via a package, then it is definitely not in another, so there are no file conflicts for the distribution package manager. And there are not too many individual files. So that was when I proposed in 2005 to package TeX to Debian. I said, okay, what should we do? So I proposed in the TeX mailing list these different options. I said, should we have one Debian package for one TeX package? That would be, yeah, at that time 2,000 something packages when, well, the Debian crowd cried at me, never, because they would double suddenly the number. Anyway, so that's a nice thing. The disadvantage is that the packaging is not trivial because you have to collect all containing packages, you have to collect all the execute statements. So that you have to invest a bit of time and to automatize this because you don't want to do it, well, maybe you want to do it once per year, but you might do it more often. So Debian and Ubuntu, well, the Ubuntu just takes what is in Debian, which it doesn't change. So package splitting, so this is straightforward, very fine grained, nice, simple, clear. Allows also to do very quick fixes for single packages if you want. Disadvantage is the huge number of packages, as I mentioned before, 2,000 or 3,000, I don't know. So this is something has to think. As far as I know, Fedora and SUSE are taking this approach. Okay, mixed mode, I don't know. I cannot say anything, but that I know that some DSD variant uses this. Okay, let's do a distribution breakdown. From what I know, I gathered around, I searched the internet for what they're doing. So Debian Ubuntu is, we know since Edge, we have TeX in it. It was in 2005. It's based on collection splitting. Fedora has TeX since FC6 and uses packet splitting. SUSE since SLE, whatever, Enterprise 11, and OpenSUSE something package splitting. FreeBSD uses also package splitting since 2009. OpenBSD was one of the first after our Debian in 2007, which is the only one using mixed splitting with about 4 packages. NetBSD, there was recently on our mailing list a bit discussion how to do. Then we have, well, it's not completely correct to discuss this thing, but we have macOS. We have since MacTeX since many years is based on TeX, ships TeX as is with some graphical interface, nice, very good integration. On Windows we have ProTeX, which is a slightly repackaged. We have TeX by itself, it's practically the same, and we have the independent MikTeX distribution. So let's go through the distributions a bit in detail. So Debian. So Woody had TeTeX 1, Sarge TeTeX 2, Edge TeTeX 3, and TeX 2005. There we had both parallel. So we tried for some time, we didn't know what will happen. TeTeX, at that time, TeTeX wasn't clear how it would continue. But then since Langley we had 2007, Squeeze 2009, and Wheezy will have 2012. So well, more or less almost what is also currently on file. Ubuntu had a hard time a bit to take live because they always released just before or froze the redistribution just before I could get out the packages for Debian. So Hardy had to like 2007. All these ones, Precise, I think that is the biggest one. Precise just released in April, and the Debian packages came out in April. So that didn't work out nicely. But well, yeah, I mean I have a real life also. Quantal, so the current development has taken live 2012, and for Precise there are PPAs for 2012. So we have one package per collection. We have, that's also something I will mention a bit later on, that the architecture dependent files, so the real binaries, not scripts. The real binaries are built from a different source package and also ships a different binary package, while we want to keep duplication to a minimum. And if you know a bit about Debian, well, if you have a package that is for every architecture, so or then then you don't have a complete duplication. You just have it once in the architecture. But if you have to compile something, then you have to for every architecture supported in Debian. So we keep that to a minimum and ship everything in architecture independent files. Our TeX Live root, this is now about 2012, is in user share TeX Live. That's new since 2012. So we have user share take live techmf this, user share take live techmf. We add an additional tree, which we call techmf debian, which is user share techmf, where packages that are not in, well, we are packaged separately from take live are installing some. And we have something, I think, that is the only distribution actually having this persistency. That's a requirement in Debian. You probably know persistency of administrative changes. So if someone changes some of the hyphenation patterns or the format definitions and removes the package and installs the package, these changes have to be persistent. That is something particular to Debian. I don't know any, well, Ubuntu, any other distribution you have this. And that creates a lot of problems. Of course, it's not so easy. Fedora, well, we have Fedora, yeah, teTeX. 2007 came into 6, and 2010, interesting, is available in 13 and 14, and 11 from 13 to 7, and now we have backports for the others. They use a single package splitting again, so one file, one Fedora package for one TeX package. They did very big thanks from our side, from our TeTeX side, a very detailed license check. In the consequence of this, a lot of packages have been either removed or checked with the original authors. Please give us a decent license statement. So that created over the last years a nice cleanup of over many things. There are no persistency of administrative changes. The post-installation script of Fedora just changes configuration files down into shared live. And, well, if the administrator wants to change something, well, it gets lost afterwards. SUSE has 2010, so these are, I mean, especially outside Debian, if one of the distributors wants to correct me, I'm open, but this is what I could grasp from the net. So we have now 12.2 has both, and the development version has 2012. Again, single package splitting. They merge these two trees, techmf dist and tech, our techmf two trees, into one user shared techmf. That might be something that will anyway happen next year also for the whole tech live distribution, that we got rid of this split. They have the configuration files in etc techmf and set it up as techmf sysconfig, but no persistency, so if you change a format or something, then and you remove and reinstall it, get lost. Other operating system, FreeBSD, one package splitting also, I couldn't really make out from cursory look how they handle this. OpenBSD is very long time, since 2007, that was one of the first. That has an interesting splitting in base, minimal, full, and docs. How this is handled with overlapping files, I don't know, but it's since 2007 up to 2012. NetBSD, recently someone came up at the TeTeX distribution list and come on, I want to package for NetBSD. I said, please look at the other BSDs, even if you hate them. macOS, I mentioned already, has a very nice wrap-up into MacTeX, hardly recommendable, it's very well done. Windows, again, has TeX upstream. We provide our own installer, graphical installer, wizard installer, and we have ProText, and then there's the independent MikTeX. Actually, now in the tech world, there are practically only two distributions. This is TeX, which is for everything, and MikTeX, which is for Windows. And TeX is also for Windows, but MikTeX has more, how to say, well, since it targets only Windows, it's more streamlined for Windows. Let's put it this way.
MikTeX is available for Linux too, or PS.
But nobody ever.
It's the best choice if you have to do something plugin for Windows.
Okay, yeah. Okay, what I want to close is with, I mentioned already many things that distributors should take care into when they are packaging TeX Live. I want to come up with, again, with a few warning and common pitfalls. The first one is, I never use TeX Live. I have no idea what TeX is, but I package it now. It sounds crazy, but I have seen this. Not well. And I can only say, yeah, okay, forget it, because it's impossible. It's not just running configure, make, install, and then run it. No. You have to please install it, please run it, please get to use what the system runs, and after this think about packaging. Improper configuration file handling is by far the biggest problem. What I mentioned all before, yeah, shipping, typical example, you ship parts of TeX you split it, but you ship the update make config file which we have in the distribution, which contains all the fonts. And that doesn't work out. So that is something, while, well, the last 20 and a half an hour I was talking about this configuration. That was, in the last years, often the case. A problem, especially for the BSD, is what is upstream. As I mentioned before, we have the DVD distribution center, it changes once. During this time, we have also created tar, big tar files, so whatever. But between these releases, once per year, we have daily updates to this TeX net distribution, but there are no revision numbers, there are no SVN, there are no date stamps, there is nothing. And there is no history. So the CETA network cannot keep copies for every day. That's impossible. Nobody has this. And that's a big problem for BSD ports, as far as I understand, because they have to download a fixed set, and the scripts have to work on this set. But the problem is, I mean, the upstream, the download for building is a moving target, and then often the port building breaks. So that is something which is a problem. Yeah, I have to say, this is something I'm happy to, with anyone having suggestions, what we can do, but we don't have neither the disk space, nor the network capability, nor the resources to keep a history of everyday's release. Yes?
How big would it be in this? Have you made any estimation?
Not that bad. So many things to change on it's really rough.
Probably, if you keep for 1 year, I don't know, 10 gigabytes, 15? It's more that someone has to set up and link it into the CETA distribution network. That is the problem. I mean, of course, or on the TeX server where we repeat where the main archive is. I mean, there's something, yeah, there's something, we are open. If someone just says, I mean, our scripts are, everything is available. Someone, if you think it makes sense and you want to have this, put it. But it's something one can discuss. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if the TeX server is happy about this. So, but this, I know from BSD this is a real problem. I mean, yeah. Binaries and source. As I say, TeX has its own distribution channels. We have our own installer, we have our own package manager, and we ship binaries. We don't repeat them during the year. We have, as I mentioned, 18 architecture OS combinations. The build process is a huge pain to get updated binaries from all the builders takes some time. We don't have automated build system. We don't have anything like this. I mean, just a few volunteers. So we cannot do this during the year. There are private, independent repositories, so you can get updated binaries if you want. I myself have one for Japanese tech binaries where we fix stuff so that we can do. But in general, it is not. But our source repository, the subversion repository, changes permanently. Thomas Alopeta is changing the packaging way permanently, and that means that it often does not relate the source repository to what actually is shipped. So you have to think about, as redistributor, as in a distribution, what am I basing my binaries on the subversion, on the released version. So this is something you have to take a bit care. Okay, last and big warning, whatever the user cries for, don't ship the TeX manager. First, it will probably not work because you have no TeX interface. Second, you don't want an independent program mess around with the files that are under your distribution's package manager control and change them, update them, change the MD5 sums or whatever. You don't want this. Whatever the user says, you just say no. Please. I mean, there is something, I have a patch for user mode TeX manager. Nobody ever tested it. I called for tests. It's still open. Something that users can install the TeX, use the TeX manager to manage their home directories and use, so to say, the whole TeX infrastructure, which we provide as TeX to to update and install new packages into the home TeX tree. But you should never allow the TeX Live Manager to mess around in your system. I mean, if the distribution works in this way, then it's okay, but normally I don't think that any distribution wants outside programs changes something. Recommendations, this is what I'm closing, so get to know the system. Yes, I mentioned before, I don't know TeX Live, I don't know TeX, but I package it. No, get to know, install it, run the normal installer. It's not, I mean, at the end, disk space is, for normal users, not such a pain. I have on my laptop, which is a bit aged, I don't know how many installations of TeX Live parallel. Learn Perl. There are all the infrastructure, everything that TeX Live is driving with, everything is programmed in Perl. All the scripts, all the updates, all the sync precedents, everything in Perl, all the access to the database, to the execute statements, all is wrapped up in Perl modules that are documented. So it helps. So look around, please. Also, if you think about for a new distribution that is not based on one of the already, then look around what others have done. TeX Live, it was first packaged in 2005, and we have now many packages, many distributions are shipping. If you want to package it in new, look around. What I mentioned before with one of these BSD variants, what is NetBSD, wants to start from scratch when there are 3 or 2 independent other BSD packaging. I mean, yeah, waste of time. Select a paradigm that fits your need. So for your distribution, for your politically, also this is often a political, even it was a political, I mean that were all no technical reasons, that fits your distribution requirements, this paradigm, so everything or single package or in between. And last, please contact us. Yeah, we want to know, we can help you, we have enough experience in this kind of stuff. So if there are any problems with contact, so where can you contact us? So the main web page for TeX Live is there. There are a lot of sub-pages. The main coordination is done on TeX Live tag.org. This is not user support. Please send your users to us. Please don't put them, if you have a request, this is for development. We often get questions from users, we often help, but it's for development. We have a specific mailing list for distributions. It's not very active, they have distros, but this is something where people from practically all the distribution maintain as a subscribe and have their knowledge. And if you want to contact me and have questions, then I'm also. Okay, I think it's exactly my time I have. Thanks for the attention, and yeah, I hope you didn't fall asleep. Okay, thanks. Any questions? Since I don't have them. Yes?
Why is it so difficult to build TeX Live when you need to commit the binaries into version control?
I'm sorry?
Why is it so difficult to build TeX Live yourself?
You mean the binary?
Build it from source.
Sorry, what TeX Live consists of a source tree which reads the binaries and a run tree. And they are both in one subversion hierarchy. But if you get the source.art.gz and you configure, make install, or make world, you don't get a TeX system. You get the binaries. The binaries have to be put in the right place in the run file. In the run. That's also a case. Simply because it doesn't make sense to have, well, as I mentioned before for Debian, the source, the building of the binaries itself is not so, I mean, it's big. We have, I don't know, 50 programs that are compiled, but it's still manageable. While the whole tree with 3.9 gigabytes is not something. Other than that, it's not complicated. Besides, on strange architectures, we have a build script. If you run it, you get all the binaries at the end. By default, everything is statically linked. By default, these are the defaults, but you can easily adapt it. So in Debian, of course, we have dynamic linking. We have the binaries. We have shared library for linked here. So yeah.
I think one is if you never use the TeX systems before yourself, you have no clue what the system is at all, or it's difficult to split up and know we set up a distributed Unix system. And TeX is a big infrastructure with a lot of tools and things, scripts, which relate to each other.
Why? Why? Why scary? No, you mess up two things. The binaries are committed to our subversion repository because we need them for our distribution channels, for TeX-Live upstream. I say TeX-Live has its own installer, which you can, everyone, even a user without root permissions can install in his home directory running TeX-Live, it's no problem. And for this, we ship binaries, precompiled, statically linked. These binaries have to be in the subversion because all packages are built from this subversion. But the distributors, like I, as Debian, looking on the Debian developer head now, I don't use these binaries. I am not allowed even to use them. I have to build them on my build machines, and you use the newly built binaries in Debian, especially because there are many architectures or architecture Linux combinations that are not supported by the binaries we support in TeX-Live. So you have to repeat this. The binaries we commit to the subversion are purely our distribution channel, and we have to ship them because we want people to be able to click, install and get the running system. And that's of course difficult because I mean we compile our binaries for Linux on the oldest machine and the oldest OS we can find, because otherwise someone cries, oh, I cannot find glibc2 or whatever, some library. So yeah, that's fact, unfortunately. So that's the reason why the compiled binaries we have shipped are mostly statically linked, are mostly fixed and ready, but distributors should never use them. Actually in Debian would be forbidden, they would be rejected out of the everything. Any other questions? Good, thanks.